Layers is the most important feature of Photoshop and GIMP. You can think of layers as a stack of transparency sheets, one laid on top of the other. Each layer may contain some image information or text in parts of it, and you can see through transparent areas of a layer through to the layer below. As layers are stacked together, they give us the result we see in our Canvas window. Let's look at the Layers window within the Photoshop interface. I have my poster document open, and we can see here that I have 3 layers in this document: the background layer, the layer with the figure of a man, and a text layer. To perform any operations on a layer, you need to select it so it's highlighted. You can turn layers off, make them invisible, by clicking on the eyeball icon next to the layer you wish to affect. To make them visible again, you click the eyeball box again. You can reorder layers by clicking on a layer and dragging it up or down in the stack of layers within our Layers window. The order of layers matters, as things lower in the stack can be hidden by elements on layers that are above them. To illustrate this, let's look at the text layer containing 1912 and how this text is laid out on top of the man's arm. When I move this text layer below the layer with the man, you will see that our text will be partially covered. And there we go. We see how the man's arm is hiding a bit of our text here. There are a few options here at the bottom of our Layers window that are useful. You can hover over any of these to see what it is they do. For now, I will just show you 2 of these options: how to delete a layer and how to create a new layer. If you want to delete a layer, you click on the layer to select it, and then click on the trash can button here to the right. You will be asked to confirm, and you can click OK. If you want to create a new layer, you can click on this button next to the trash can icon, and a new layer will show up here in our Layers window. You can also click on a layer and drag it into this new layer icon to create a duplicate copy of that layer. To rename a layer, you can double-click on the name it was given by default, which will allow you to type in a new descriptive name. Renaming layers will allow you to quickly identify your layers and stay organized. If you double-click off of the name of the layer, you will trigger a different feature of Photoshop, which is not what we want to examine at the moment. If that happens, you can click Cancel and go back to your layer, double-click on the name, enter a new name, and hit Enter. Something else you will find in your Layers window is your Contextual Menu. So if you click on this arrow, you will see options that are specific to layers. So this is an alternative way to delete a layer you have selected or create a new layer. You can also select Duplicate Layer to create a copy of the currently selected layer. Right now, I want to reset my document so it's in the state it was when I last saved it. I will go to the main menu and under File, select Revert. Because I hadn't saved my work since I opened this document, this operation will get me back to what my image looked like when I first opened this document. Here on the top of the Layers window, we have an option for the opacity of a selected layer. Opacity of 0 will make the layer completely transparent, and an opacity of 100% will make the layer completely opaque. A number in between will give you a semi-transparent layer, which can have interesting visual results. You can see here that the changes I'm making to the opacity setting is affecting the text layer 1912 because that's the layer I have currently selected. Let's look at another visually interesting feature: blend modes. Let's select the layer with the figure of the man, and let's click on this drop-down list, which right now shows normal. Let's click on screen. You will see that our image is not completely opaque anymore, and it has blended with the background in an interesting way. Let's go back to the blend mode drop-down list and switch this setting to something else, let's say color. You can keep trying different options from this list, and you will typically get much more interesting results than adjusting the opacity of a layer. When we use blend modes, there are different kinds of operations done between the color values of the layers involved, so it may be hard to anticipate the visual results of this feature. Trial and error will be a fun and good way to go about exploring this further. In GIMP, layers function the same way, and the layers window is similarly structured. The difference here is that the new layer button is all the way to the left on this bar. The blend mode drop-down list is pretty much the same, and the opacity setting acts more like a slider when you hover over and your cursor turns to this arrow with a flat bottom. In GIMP, you also have a contextual menu available, and you can find the same options as in Photoshop. By clicking on this arrow and under Layers menu, you will find the options to create a new layer, delete a layer, and duplicate a layer.